The Hoover Dam, one of the 7 industrial wonders of the world, is as tall as a 60-story building. It was the highest dam in the world when it was completed in 1935. The amount of concrete used in building it was enough to pave a road stretching from San Francisco all the way to New York City. At the time of its construction, Hoover Dam was mankind's most massive masonry structure since the Great Pyramids. Hoover Dam was an audacious and courageous undertaking. The dam, named after Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States, is a multi-use engineering marvel. Hoover Dam effectively controls floods, stores water for irrigation, benefiting entire cities and large industries, provides hydroelectric power generation, and creates a habitat for recreation, fish, and wildlife. But before the dam could be built, political work was necessary to resolve the competing claims on the river by different western states. Even before he became president, Hoover himself, a former engineer, was an advocate for the project. In 1922, while serving as President Harding's Secretary of Commerce, Hoover forged the agreement that would dictate how the states along the river would share the water. The agreement that would make the building of the dam possible is known as the Colorado River Compact, which divided the river basin into 2 regions: Lower, which was Arizona, Nevada, and California, and Upper, which was Wyoming, Utah, New Mexico, and Colorado.
States write water allotments. Everybody wanted their share. Nobody was willing to compromise, and that's what led to the original compromise. And when Herbert Hoover brought to the table the idea, it wasn't his idea, but he brought to the table the idea of dividing up between the lower Colorado region and the upper Colorado region states. Once they did that, it was much easier for the states within those regions to argue or hammer out a deal. Water was the most important thing. That's what it was all about. Who was going to get what amount of water.
In 1928, after 7 years of lobbying and debating to get a dam building bill through Congress, he diplomatically persuaded skeptical eastern states to support the dam and pass the agreement in Congress. Luckily, the legislation was finally approved as the Boulder Canyon Project Act. Hoover, who that same year was elected as the 31st President of the United States, signed the bill into law in 1929. Throughout this time, Hoover saw the dam as a way to develop the country's infrastructure out west. In the 1920s, places like California were starting to grow, but they didn't have the infrastructure, the drinking water, the irrigation systems, or the electricity to handle it.
It was during the Great Depression. The government at the time, the president also wanted to unite America and have a big project to do so and put people to work. And it did a pretty good job. To
really understand the significance of Hoover Dam, it is important to consider it in the context of the time when it was built. Construction began in 1931, 2 years into the Great Depression. After the Depression hit, Hoover Dam also began to see the dam as a way to put people back to work, improve the quality of life of those who lived in the area, and invest in the American economy.
It's just a group of congressmen and senators that were willing to go the extra mile.
Before construction could begin, the river was diverted around the dam site through 4 50-foot diameter tunnels, 2 drilled through the canyon walls on each side of the river. The dam had to be big. It held back what was then and still is the largest man-made lake in the United States. Only a huge dam could stand up to the pressure of so much water. Building such a mammoth structure presented unprecedented challenges to the engineers of the Bureau of Reclamation. It stretched the abilities of its builders to the limits. It claimed the lives of 96 of the 21,000 men who worked on it. As proposed, the building of the Boulder Dam would constitute the largest public works project in the history of the United States to date, and no one company was prepared to take on the risk itself. Another series of debates occurred when placing the project to bid. Although construction and engineering interests were eager to leave their stamp upon the finished product, companies were also very concerned about the $5 million performance bond the government was demanding from whoever was awarded the contract. The coming together of what became 6 companies is a story of the melting of ambitions of maverick individuals, each driven by a desire to transform the emerging West. Each of them knew that success on this project would allow them to step out from the shadow of Eastern financiers and industrialists. Skeptics thought it couldn't be done. Others were convinced that the contractors would go bust. but the men of the 6 companies boldly moved forward, drawing their considerable collective knowledge and experience, managing huge risks and pioneering as they went. There is no question that it was a stepping stone for us, the Hoover Dam project, and our role in it was a major platform for advancing to other bigger projects since then. Steve Betchel Jr., Betchel Construction Company. The diplomatic idea to join forces to form one company came from Harry Morrison of the Morrison-Cudson Construction Firm of Boise, Idaho. Added to the mix was Charlie Shea, who enlisted the interests of the Pacific Bridge Company, and Felix Kahn of the San Francisco firm McDonald & Kahn. Meanwhile, Kaiser, an ambitious young road builder from Oakland, California, and his mentor, Warren A. Betchel, a powerful old-line San Francisco contractor, had become interested in the project. After hours of debating about the terms of agreement, Felix Kahn baptized the consortium with the name 6 Companies. Once the players were all in place and the requisite performance bonds were available, all attention turned to the submission of a winning bid. The men of 6 Companies turned to Frank Crowe to come up with a number that would get them the job. Considered the finest construction man in the country, Crowe presented a bid of $48,890,995. The number fell just $24,000 short of the Reclamation Service's own accounting, low enough to win the contract for 6 Companies. 6 Companies was awarded the contract, and Frank Crowe prepared to embark on the greatest adventure of his life. Frank Crowe, an engineer from the University of Maine and the most experienced dam builder at the time, later recalled, "I was wild to build this dam. I had spent my life in the river bottoms, and Hoover Dam meant a wonderful climax, the biggest dam ever built by anyone anywhere." Frank Crowe. Construction began in 1931. Crowe had been charged with commanding a ragtag army of unemployed men and turning them into the builders of the greatest monument of industrial might of the day. Fighting a brutal climate and unyielding deadline, Crowe used innovation, motivation, inspiration, and most importantly diplomacy to get the job done.
Frank Crowe was the chief superintendent of the construction project. So he actually worked for the federal government for over 20 years, building dams for the federal government. He retired. 6 Companies got him out of retirement to become his chief superintendent of the project. So he had a lot of knowledge, he had a lot of insight. So when they were building the dam, he used all of that history and his experience to make this dam what it was. This dam was, under his leadership, was built under budget. The government offered Frank Crowe and the 6 Companies $49 million to build the dam. They built it $48.5 million, so they saved the government $500,000. The government gave Frank Crowe and the 6 Companies 7 years to build the dam. Frank Crowe and the company built it in 5. And the company built the dam 70% over strength of what the government was expecting.
6 Companies' construction of Hoover Dam was also significant in that it forged a bond between government funding and private sector expertise motivated by the cash of projects of such scale. Hoover Dam did and continues to do all the things its supporters hoped it would. It protects Southern California and Arizona from the disastrous floods for which the Colorado had been famous. It provides water to irrigate farm fields. It supplies water and power to Los Angeles and other rapidly growing cities in the Southwest. But the dam also had an entirely unexpected result, one that began while it was still under construction. For millions of people in the 1930s, including those who would never visit Hoover Dam, it came to symbolize that American industry and American workers could do, even in the depths of the Great Depression, anything they wanted to.
The dam transformed the Southwest and the Western United States. It transformed the entire country. And not only from a monetary standpoint, but from a figurative standpoint as well. You got to think, back in the day, to start and finish a project like this in the middle of the Great Depression was a huge shot in the arm to the psyche of the average American. This was a really big deal. This got Americans thinking that we can make it through those troubling times.
Today, Hoover Dam is a top tourist attraction with more than 1 million visitors each year to take tours offered by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. What they see is one of the wonders of the modern industrial world. What they know is that this gigantic concrete structure is more than just a dam. It's a symbol of the human spirit, a project that came around when the country needed it most. It is indeed a wonder of the world, filled with debates, teamwork, mankind, goodwill, and much diplomacy that led to the unprecedented success.